So I had someone message me recently asking about whether you need to have aligned values in a relationship. And in this context, we don't need to think about relationships just as romantic relationships, because relating, or to be in relation, is just two parties with a form of connection. So we are in constant relationship with everyone and everything in our life. And we will naturally be drawn to people who have similar values, similar qualities, characteristics, behaviors, attitudes, beliefs, limitations. And that is because, you could say, on a vibrational level, on an energetic level, there is some harmony there. There is a similarity in the energy field, and so there is the ability for intimacy, because intimacy means into me see. So it's the ability for one party to see into another. If they can see into each other, they can penetrate each other, not just physically, but spiritually, psychologically. They can penetrate each other and come into union. Now, where it gets interesting is, does the person or the thing that we are having relationship with need to align with all of our values, or the majority of our values? And what I find to be important in asking that question is, what is the purpose of relationship to you? If the purpose of relationship is to have someone fulfill all your needs, then you may find it hard to find that person. And there are many different ways we can look at relationship. For me, the primary objective of relationship is intimacy, to allow the other person to be a mirror into myself. And so when you're experiencing all of these interactions with people, they're showing you back to yourself. They're showing you a part of your psyche or your soul that you are not honoring or not acknowledging. And if you don't recognize that, you will point the finger at them and you will blame them for being who they are, rather than turning the finger around, not to blame yourself, but to see the parts of yourself where your projections are coming from. Why are you so angry? Why are you so hostile? Well, if I turn that around on myself, what that statement means is, I have a difficulty to relate to or understand what anger is or what hostility is. Because we have demonized certain emotions in our society, and we say that anger is bad. Now, anger as an emotion serves a functional purpose. It serves the purpose of creating a boundary around oneself so that one can discern how to interact with their environment. If there's no anger there, and we don't mean aggression, we don't mean violence, we mean a very subtle flowing of anger. If that is not there, one is unable to act with wisdom and self-respect in the world simultaneously. One may deny their own needs for the sake of someone else's, or one may exaggerate their own needs at the detriment of someone else. If they have very firm boundaries, they're very strong in their own boundaries. And see, everything in our life is a duality. It's a dance, and it's all on a spectrum. It's not about no boundaries or firm boundaries. because it's just a spectrum of boundaries. And relationships and people are on a spectrum. It's not about, is this person a good person or that person is a bad person, this person is a better person, this person is a lesser person. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with acknowledging that everyone you attract into your life, you are attracting them because of the way you are. It's so simple, but so difficult to apply at times because we're so used to externalizing our own internal system onto the world. And we say, anything that's happening inside of me, well, it must be to do with what's happening out there. And that in itself is a form of illusion, because if you look closely at your experience, you will see that there is no such thing as inside and outside. That's only an imaginary boundary for those who consider themselves to be limited to the surface of the skin, and anything below the skin is inside, anything above the skin is outside. But it's an arbitrary position that, if we examine it, doesn't really exist. So we're asking this question of how does this all fit into relationships? And it's about orchestrating yourself in such a way in which you're living life as an environment for your own awakening. You're using everything available to you to work on your own system, to refine your own perspectives, to see your blockages, to work through your blind spots. And so, relationship is not about finding someone who is perfect for you, because that's a lie. We get that idea from fairy tales and from stories where people live happily ever after. And if you look at life, life is not about happily ever after. There is happiness, there is sadness, there is joy, there is despair. They are on a spectrum. It's not black or white, it is just a spectrum that is only one. And so we have to hold ourselves in such a way where we are big enough to hold all of that. And what that actually requires, quite counterintuitively to a lot of people, is that we need a big ego. We need a large ego to actually hold the complexity of ourself and the world inside of it. If your ego is not well developed enough, if your ego is not mature enough, then all that will happen is you will fail to assimilate wisdom and live out that wisdom. It will either become divided intellectually and it will be disembodied wisdom, or there's another option, which is to go into crazy wisdom. And that is a leap that few take, because it does require one to go insane by any social standards, because it relies upon the individual giving up the entirety of their conventional wisdom for acting from a place that is available to them that goes against rationality. It's almost like surrendering into pure intuition, and that will seem like wisdom, that will seem like insanity to the rational mind. So a lot of this work is about really becoming crazy, because it is actually only the world that is insane. The world we have created for ourselves is deluded and lost. And when we come back to ourselves, or we begin this journey back to ourselves, there are many times when we have to question our sanity, because we will go against a lot of the lifestyle choices that the majority of the population make. I'm going to go for a nice wife with a nice home, and I'll have all the kids, and we'll have an investment fund, and we'll have a one or two dogs, and we'll go away on the weekends, and that'll be a nice hunky-dory life. And it's not to talk badly about people that make those choices, because actually there is no lifestyle choice that is more spiritual than another. That's another form of delusion, because the spiritual life is life. They're not separate things. So it's only about, as I said, how you're holding yourself, how you are relating to your experience. So when we say, oh, should I have a partner or a friend who is a meat eater if I'm a vegetarian, or if I practice Buddhism, can I be friends with a Hindu? These are all divisions in the mind. They're just constructs that allow us to divide ourselves, and we have to move beyond those if we are to reach any point of global peace. The only way that is possible is to move beyond all divisions, and that work starts and ends in yourself, because you can't help anyone else on their journey. You can't assist someone else towards enlightenment. You may feel as though you can at times. You may feel as though if I do this, then this happens in another person that seems to help them. But you'll notice that it's nothing that you're doing. It's a function of God's will, if you want to call it that, that is flowing through your system into the world and is being picked up by other people and individuals, but you are not doing it. Right now, there is speaking happening, but there is no speaker. When a poet writes a masterful piece of poetry, there is no poet, really. There is just the poem writing itself. When a singer does an amazing performance, there is just singing. There is no singer. When an actor is on the stage and does amazing acting, there is actually no actor. There's just acting. There's just performing. There is just creativity. No creator. There is no object that possesses any skill in the universe. There is just this happening, this infinite mystery flowing, unfolding constantly. And we, out of our basic ignorance, over and over again, believe ourselves to be the reality that can choose and manipulate and direct where this life goes. And that will always fail us, trying to control life, trying to direct it, and it will cause us suffering, because ultimately we're resisting what is. And the fundamental truth of reality is that if we do not resist what is, we will never suffer. And it is such an easy statement to say. It is a much more difficult reality to abide by, because the stories and projections we have for our life and the world are so strong that it takes an immense amount of energy to counteract that flow and to surrender what we think should happen. And that is the goal of all spiritual work, if you want to call it spiritual work, is to be surrendered. That doesn't mean if someone is being abused on the street and in a fight and on the floor being pummeled to death, that I surrender and I let go and I allow it to happen. No, that is actually still being in egoic delusion. I'm still avoiding in some way. The only correct response there would be to go and help, to try and stop the fight in some format. It's seen in the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna is called to go to war, and he is confused. He experiences fundamental confusion, because in his mind, any war is against the Dharma. Any violence acted upon another human being goes against the Dharma. And in a conventional sense, that is true. But the teaching for him in that moment was that there is no conventional way to live. Life is a mystery unfolding moment to moment, and we have to respond with our full awareness, our full resources to whatever is arising. And if we act from the past, what we've read in books, what we've realized in the past, insights we've had, even about the nature of reality or God or oneness, if we refer to the past to inform our present, it is always a limited form of action. It is always a fragmented perspective to take, because reality is only now, reality is only here. So the fullness of response to any given circumstance arises from here. And so Arjuna realized that although conventionally it went against the Dharma to partake in this battle, that actually it was still in line with the Dharma, because he was going against a army that was going to cause a lot of destruction in the world. They were not going to be uplifting humanity, they would have brought it down. And so his responsibility in that moment was to fight that war. And it was very difficult for him to realize that, because it went against a lot of the principles he had learned to live by. And that's why we can't live by rules. We can have principles and rules to guide us, but ultimately, as we become more free, we must learn to live in a way that is not constrained by rules. And that can be scary, because a lot of rules are there to protect humanity and to protect the quality of society. And when we realize that good and bad and these moralistic judgments are just creations of the mind, it opens up a door into a reality that is extremely hard for a conventional dualistic mind to understand. And you see this with teachers like Osho and Gurdjieff. They use devices. They call them devices. They put people in certain circumstances where their ego was challenged, and it was forced into a corner, and it had to act in a new way. It had to discover some new way of being in that moment. And by conventional standards, it would have been quite abusive or harmful to be doing this to people, to be forcing people into this environment where there's no other option. They experience panic and fear and confusion, this temporary disease in themselves, only to then have this release. And a lot of our practices are about putting ourselves in discomfort with a conscious awareness in order to have breakthroughs and discover new ways of relating to the universe. So we have to be open enough that we're not following any program. And there's a great saying that I like, which is that you know you're following your own path when the path falls away, where you don't know what's going to happen next, where you don't know where you're going. Because if you know where you're going, you are subtly copying someone else's journey. You read about the Buddha or Jesus or Osho or Neem Karoli Baba, or your dad or your mother, your grandparents, your best friend, and you take in all this information into yourself and you assimilate it in your own way, and you say, okay, I will do this path that brings it all together. And that works for some time, and then eventually it collapses, and you are nowhere, you are nobody, and you have nothing. And that is absolutely silent. It is absolutely silent. Because the greatest freedom is not freedom from something, but just freedom. No need to be anything. No need to present yourself as anything. No need to perform for other people, to fulfill other people's projections and desires and wishes. And that doesn't mean you make everyone happy. Doesn't mean that people will always like you. But it means that you are living your path. You are living your dharma. And when you can trust in that, and you trust in that silence, then everything will be provided for you. Everything will be taken care of. And yes, worry and doubt may creep in, and you will be big enough to hold them in such a way that they do not shake you. They do not give you a fundamental deviation from yourself. You're big enough that they can just pass by. And you can still honor them as well. It's not denying them. It's not saying, I don't feel fear, because that's also maybe subtly trying to not allow yourself to feel fear. It's just, fear is not here. That is it. Fear is not here. And then it may be in the next moment that fear is here. But if that is accepted fully, it is not a problem. And so, to come back to the point of this video about how we relate to people, what should we be looking for in other people that we choose in our life, I guess we should be looking for people that are an environment in which we can do the spiritual work that feels right for us at any given point. And if that is no longer the case, then we can change our environment. And only you know what that is for you. So don't look to me, don't look to another teacher, don't look to a friend. Look to yourself for your own answer. It's good to have teachers at times. I've had many different teachers. Life is my teacher still, and I still have many physical teachers and mentors and good friends. But more and more so, you are able to trust yourself. You have faith that is strong enough that you can trust yourself. And that it brings a lot of power into your system. And it allows you to relax, to be calm, to be composed. Because you can trust yourself. So trust yourself, love everyone, tell the truth, be yourself. That's all I can say. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.